You know how we all claim to be Christian and we're not really? Well, that was my story. That was me. That was the life that I was living. Claiming to be Christian, claiming to be a child of God, but still living my best life in the streets. So this year, the biggest plot twist has been Jesus knocking on my door and me basically answering that call. And I didn't realize how I was lying to myself and how I was living a life that was not what I thought it was. You know, I gave my life to God in 2013. I said, I accept Jesus Christ with my heart. I confess with my mouth and I believe in my heart that He died for me. But I was still continuing living my life the way everybody lives their lives, you know. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was clubbing, I was doing the deed before marriage. I have a child out of wedlock. I was just living my best life and thinking, as long as I go to church, as long as I pray every now and then and open my Bible every now and then, I'm saved. Boy, was I fooled. Boy, was I so fooled, was I so wrong. And this all started last year. God convicted me about doing the deed, you know, not being married. He kept convicting me. And I was like, why am I feeling so uncomfortable all of a sudden? Because I've been doing this thing for years, you know. I'm 31 and I've been doing this thing like, you know, forever. Like, I've never felt uncomfortable. Why do I all of a sudden feel uncomfortable for doing the deed? Like, then I realized that, okay, I think God is telling me not to do it. But then, you know, at the back of my mind, I'm thinking that, and then I'm like, no, can't be. It absolutely cannot be. Anyway, I ignored it. I tried to ignore it. And for months and months after that, I kept getting convicted and I kept ignoring and I kept justifying, trying to be like, Anyway, eventually this year, between June and July, I started getting closer to God. I started praying more. I started reading my Bible more. Not that I wasn't doing it before, but I was very intentional about it. I was very intentional about my relationship with God and getting closer to Him. And as I was doing these prayer sessions with God, and I basically call them conversations with God, because I would write down everything He was telling me. One of my prayer points was like, God, the person that I'm in a relationship with, is this person meant for me? And then God is like, yes. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I think also in my mind, I knew that, okay, like, you need to get married now. Like, you can't be playing house all your life. You can't be fighting and sitting forever, you know? Hence, I had that conversation. And when I had that conversation and God said yes, and I still did that prayer, you know, the famous prayer where you're like, God, if this person is not for me, remove them. And God was like, I'm not removing this person. This person is meant for you. And I was like, okay, cool. A week goes by. One of my friends called me up and he says to me, I had a dream about you. You are doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. And God has been telling you about it. You need to be obedient. And immediately I knew what that was. This is like 2 weeks after I had this conversation with God about my person being my person. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I know this. I know what God is trying to say because He's been telling me for months now, right? And eventually that same night, so this was the morning where my friend told me his dream, right? The same night I have my conversation with God. And God immediately comes at me and says, you need to stop doing the deed. And I'm like, but God, you just said to me 2 weeks ago that this is my person. We're getting married. And God is like, are you married yet? And I'm like, no. I was like, no, we're not married yet. Guys, the way I was trying to justify why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I can do what I'm doing, because I'm not cheating. I'm doing it with one person. We are meant to be. We're gonna get married. And God is like, you're not married yet. Until you are married, what does my word say? And I was like, okay. I was looking for every excuse in the book to continue sinning. I was literally looking for every single excuse in the book. I even went to Google and I was Googling, is it okay for people in a long-term relationship to have sex according to the Bible? I'm Googling, I'm trying to figure out how can I best justify my sin, basically. How best can I say, listen here, God, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. You can't tell me no. And then after that night, I was like, yo. Because I think in the back of my mind, I was also scared. I was also feeling some type of way, feeling that if I do this, if I say I'm cutting this out, what does that mean for my relationship? And God told me the next day, because I asked him this question the next day. If I say it's over, I'm not doing this anymore, what happens to my relationship? And God was like, don't worry about him. I will sort him out. You focus on being obedient to me. These are my commandments. This is my word. Follow it. And I was like, cool, bet. And then I followed it. And in the next 2 weeks, God changed my partner's heart and said to him, you need to repent. You need to do what's right. And literally 2 weeks later, we both got baptized. So yeah, that was the plot twist of how God has changed my life. I have officially given my heart and my life over to God. I'm living according to his word. I'm in relationship with him. I have not just confessed with my mouth and my heart and saying that he died on the cross. I'm actually trying to live according to his will, according to his word, according to the plans that he has for me, according to his commandments. And it's not easy to not live in sin. It's not easy to let go of the things that you are so used to. But let me tell you, it was so easy for me to let go of certain things. Like, I haven't drank, I haven't smoked, I haven't gone out. Okay, I'm not a big going out person, but I haven't done the things that I used to do so easily in a long time. And it was so easy for me not to do it, because God took away all that craving. He took away all of that desire to do all of these things. And it's been a whirlwind. It's been an eye-opener for me to realize that we are so blinded by church culture that we think we are saved when we're basically not. We have one foot in and one foot out, and God does not want that. So if you know that God has been knocking on your door, and God knocks on everyone's door, it's just up to us whether or not we are listening and whether we are willing to open that door for him. If you know that God has been knocking on your door and seeking you and asking you to come home, to come to him, to accept him, to have a relationship with him, please answer that door. He does not want you to be perfect. He does not want you to say, I'm going to leave my drinking, I'm going to leave my doing the deed, I'm going to be perfect when I come to God. No, God doesn't want us perfect. He wants us to come to him so that he can fix us, so that he can make us the way we are supposed to be. So if you are feeling some type of way, if God is convicting you in some certain areas of your life, whereas you've been doing certain things and it's always been comfortable, and now all of a sudden you're uncomfortable doing that, heed to God's call. Don't ignore it, because he's going to keep knocking. He's not going to turn his back on you, but don't turn your back on him. So that is my little story of my plot twist of 2024. I did not think this is how my year would end when I started it at the beginning of the year. So yeah.